Would anyone like to ring the singing bowl in 2 minutes, or should I do it?
I could. We'll come out and make sure.
I'll come over there. I just did.
Yeah.
I think I can do that.
Yeah.
Thanks, Tyler.
No, I'm gonna write this down. What? Yeah, it was on March 3rd. But I guess I'll just put it as.
Good morning, everyone. It is my privilege to welcome all of you in the sanctuary, as well as those of you on Zoom, to the hybrid gathering of Summit Universalist Unitarianism's Fellowship's Sunday service. I am Rin Corbet, and today we are honored to welcome our longtime members, Margo Mariana, Pat Summers, Carol Schnaubelt, and Jenny Saar to the pulpit to share their personal and varied perspectives on courage. We are recording today's service and we'll turn it off for our community gathering after the service. And now let us turn our minds and hearts to our musical prelude.
Good morning. This is a piece that is actually two pieces. It's two rondos by Baroque composer Jean-Philippe Rameau called La Timide. And with the topic of courage, it's opposite, timidity. And you'll hear in the second one, there's some grand pauses, and it's just like you're sort of searching for the right thing to say, and you just can't say it. And you hear the fear in it. And this would have been written for the harpsichord.
Thank you, Barbara. Summit UU Fellowship is a spiritually liberal community deeply committed to the shared values of love and inclusion. We have no dogma. We do aspire to the shared principles intentionally drawn from world religions, humanist teachings, nature, science, philosophy, and personal practices. The mission of Summit is to commit ourselves to building a more compassionate, just, and sustainable world. I'd like to welcome our two visitors, Sam and Rebecca, this morning. If there are any other visitors, I don't notice them. If there are visitors at home on Zoom, welcome to you as well. Announcements. Al, do you have an announcement?
Good morning. The board is considering having the Social Justice and Action Committee put on a homeless shelter next April. Reason being is April is we felt by then any kind of a winter surge would be over, pretty much so. And all guests that will be come on our campus, homeless guests, will be vaccinated and also will test negative, a negative reading. And so it takes people, a lot of people, of course, to put out a shelter, and we're asking you folks, whatever you can think of. So if you're interested in hosting in helping out with shelter in any way, if you could please let a board member know, or one of our three committee coordinators. Andy Mitchell, where's that? Is Andy up here around here someplace? There she is. Hey, there's Andy. Okay, hey, Andy. Okay. Okay. Hey, no, there's Simon too, right? Okay. And Liz McHugh. No, okay. Or myself. So, okay. Thank you very much for trying.
Thank you, Al. Such an important service that Summit is involved with, the homeless shelter, as we have for the past 9 years, or apart from the COVID, the pandemic, where we were not involved, but I think 7 or 9 years prior to that. Other announcements, as you noticed, the salon is occupied by our polling place, so we won't meet there afterwards for coffee. And this Saturday at 3 o'clock in the salon and the area outside the salon, we will have our thanks and goodbye party for Reverend Everett. Music provided by Suzanne McQuaid and the Over the Bridge Band. So everyone show up for coffee and cake, 3 p.m. on Saturday. For more than 10,000 years, the Kumeyaay people have lived in harmony with this land. Fishers and hunters, farmers and artisans, chemists, physicists, astrologers, and marine biologists. The history of their presence on this land is visible in many San Diego area places and in the thousands of artifacts preserved in collections like those housed at the Barona Museum. We acknowledge that our fellowship resides on unceded Kumeyaay land, which continues to be home of the Kumeyaay people. Chalice lighting, Carol.
Chalice lighting. Chalice, I'm just gonna do it. It's called Out of the Flames by Reverend Sarah Lawal. Out of the flames of fear, we rise with courage of our deepest convictions to stand for justice, inclusion, and peace. Out of the flames of scrutiny, we rise to proclaim our faith with hope to heal a fractured and hurting world. Out of the flames of doubt, we rise to embrace the mystery, wonder, and awe of all there is and all that is yet to be. Out of the flames of hate, we rise with the force of love, love that celebrates our shared humanity. Out of the flames, we rise.
Now please stand if you're able and sing While Masked to our UU hymn and then our aspiration. May love be the spirit of this fellowship. May the quest for truth be its sacrament and service be its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, and to help one another in fellowship. This is our aspiration. And now time for all ages with Mary Cartervale on Zoom.
Hi, Summit. It's Mary. I'm actually out of town this weekend. I made a video for you, a story for Time for All Ages, as we explore courage today. And I'm actually going to talk about two themes, courage, and our next theme, which starts next week, which is change. So both of them are very powerful, and they really, we experience them almost every day. So sometimes it takes courage to do something that you might feel nervous about, right? What is it like to feel nervous? Like you want to go and do something, but you're not sure you can do it. You're not sure, never done it before. It seems a little scary, and you're feeling nervous. What does that feel like in your body? When I feel nervous, my body kind of gets small. I kind of crunch in, and sometimes I feel like butterflies in my tummy, and I'm like, ooh, I'm not comfortable. I'm not sure. I'm nervous. Have you ever felt that way? Yeah. And that sometimes it takes. We're told it takes courage when we're nervous. And one of the definitions of courage is you feeling nervous about something and you do it anyways, right? You're courageous. And brave people, usually that's what it is. You know, it's not that they have anything extra special. It's just, it takes a little extra to push us into taking the action, right? And we have to move past that nervousness, that fear that's sort of. Now, there's another one I like to look at, another way that sometimes we feel when there's something coming up that we need to do, and that's excitement. It's kind of the opposite of that nervousness, where excitement is, oh, I get to do something new. I'm super excited. I really want to do that new thing, and I'm excited. Like maybe think about the very first time you got to go to the zoo and see your favorite animal. You might have been excited about that. You've never been there before. You weren't sure what the animal was going to be like in person, but it's your first time going, and you were really, really excited. I remember the first time I got to go to the San Diego Zoo when I first came out here to visit my mom. I was actually in college the first time I got to go, and there was a lion there that roared at my stepfather. He roared. And I was very nervous when I saw that, the roaring lion, but I was very excited to get to see a lion roar because I'd never seen that before. So when nervousness and excitement come together, it makes something called nervous-sighted. That's what my middle child, Anya, calls it, being nervous-sighted. And that, in my experience, is a place where growth can happen. So when we have to be courageous sometimes and do things that make us nervous, And when we can shift that to excitement, what does excitement feel like in your body? Think about the last time you were excited. You get sort of bubbly. Maybe Halloween was a time you were excited. I was excited. We had a carnival here in the parking lot. It was very exciting. There was slime being made and pumpkins barfing and crafts, spider webs being made and costumes. We even had a T-Rex running around. Oh, it was so exciting to have all that. And I just, my body was happy and joyful and smiley. And I just felt open. Excitement as opposed to nervous. Excitement. So I tell you about nervous sighted because it's a really powerful place to be. And I want to show you my little illustration. I've done this before. My double circles, my donut. This is my donut. And then the center of the donut is our comfort zone. I'll put a C there for comfort. What does it mean to be comfortable? To be in your comfort zone means it feels safe. It feels normal. It feels very calm. You're relaxed. You're not nervous or excited when you're in your comfort zone. It's not a place that you need to be courageous. It's not a place where change is happening. It's just very much, you're comfortable, right? So think about your favorite place to hang out or being with your favorite people. That's your comfort zone, right? And then we also have, outside of my donut, this is the danger zone. That's where things might not be safe at all in the danger zone. Like that could be trying to jump out of an airplane. Like that's not something you're going to do tomorrow, right? Unless you are trained in that. That takes a lot of work to get. We won't want to go in that danger zone. That's a place where things aren't safe. But between the comfort zone and the danger zone is this little magic zone. I'm going to call it the magic zone. This is when we step just out of our comfort zone, not into the danger zone, but out of our comfort zone to where we feel nervous-sighted. Nervous and excited. We are being courageous, and we're entering into a space where change is going to happen, right? When we step into this place, this is where we make mistakes. It's where messes can happen. It's also where growth happens. It's where we learn how to do stuff. Now, many of you know that I'm a baker. I had to bake for the first time once, right? I've been a baker for most of my life, but I had to start sometime. I started when I was about 8 years old. I remember learning how to bake. Both my mom and my grandmother would let me bake in their kitchen. They were very supportive of my messes, and I made some big messes. I remember baking cake for my grandmother in her camper in the summer in Maine. We were up at the lake, and my sister and I were baking a cake, and my grandmother bravely stepped out of her kitchen and let me and my sister bake. I was probably a little older. I was probably about 10. My sister was about 8. We got into all kinds of messes. We were making a birthday cake for my grandmother, and we baked the cake, and we did all the things, and we managed to somehow break the mixer in the process and set the curtains on fire. I don't remember exactly what we did, but my sister smacked the curtains out with her hands. But I don't know how we set them on fire, but we did. It was terrible. And we'd broken the mixer, but we did make a cake. And my grandmother remembers us coming out, my sister with a frozen orange juice in each hand, saying, "Grandma, the good news is your cake is done and the camper didn't burn down." I don't think that encouraged my grandmother much. We were on the edge of the danger zone, most definitely. But we were bravely making this cake for my grandmother. And it all came out well in the end. The adults did come in and make sure we stayed out of this danger zone. But we were in the magic zone, My grandmother let us bake the cake and allowed us to use the kitchen even if we made a mess, and allowed us to make the mistakes that we made, even though they were probably worse than they should have been. And it all worked out in the end. I don't recommend setting curtains on fire. Not a good idea. Don't do it. But we learned what not to do. Don't put the curtains near the open flame on the stove. Don't do that. We learned what not to do with the mixer. Don't stick a spoon in it when it's working, because That's how it broke. We broke the mixer. And then we learned how to repair. So we learned how to clean up the mess. We helped replace the curtains and clean up the mess that we'd made. We helped fix the mixer. We took responsibility for the mess that we made in our learning process. So, and that was where the growth was. It was learning that process. And I still remember that story of me learning how to bake way back when I was, 8 and 10 years old, learning how to make that mess because I was in this magic zone. Was it perfect? Oh no, it wasn't perfect. Was it messy? Oh yeah, it was messy. Was it growing? Yeah, it was growing because we were courageous and we were making a change. We were doing something we'd never done before. And we had the support of the folks who loved us. They were supporting us even if we were making a horrible mess. So courage and change, they go together. And when you feel that nervous excitement in your body, nervous and excited at the same time, that's when you're in that magic zone of growth. So think about times when you feel nervous and excited. Have you ever felt that before? Maybe it was on Halloween, putting on a costume. You weren't sure how well it was going to go. Or maybe it is doing a project at school that's something you've never done before. So that is where the growth is. That is where we learn. It's when we try things that are new, even though they make us nervous and excited at the same time. So change comes when we're courageous. And when we embrace change, we learn and discover new ways, new skills, new ways of doing things. So I hope you enjoyed my story today. I hope you embrace your nervousness and your excitement when it's in the magic zone and stay out of the danger zone. Don't set your curtains on fire. Big hugs to y'all, and I will be back next week. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Mary. So thinking of her diagram, the circles reminds me of the UUA's initiative, Widening the Circle, which Summit and the other cluster UU fellowships in San Diego County are working on monthly. Widening that circle. So is that what we're here to do? Are we here to widen that inner circle, our comfort zone, so it expands the magic zone out into the danger zone and we keep growing and growing and growing and growing? Interesting. Today's reading is adapted from Brené Brown's personal prayer on courage. May we find the courage to let go of who we think we're supposed to be so that we can fully embrace our authentic selves, the imperfect, the creative, the vulnerable, the powerful, the broken, and the beautiful. May we show ourselves and others the compassion that comes from knowing that we are all made of strength and struggle. And may we experience the strength of connection, the love of belonging, and the grace of pure joy. Now let's stand and sing Comfort Me as you're able. (1002) in the Peel hymnals and also on the screen. If Summit is a valued community in your life, please support us by making an offering today. Our Zoomers are at home are invited to contribute to our virtual plate. The link can be found in the chat box and it will take you directly to the donation location. And as always, we acknowledge our intrepid pledgers. They help us keep our doors open. Now we will gratefully accept your generous donations during the musical interlude.
I usually introduce the music from the piano, but I have a reason for not doing it. And I got excited because, nerd that I am, when I heard the topic was courage, I started looking through my books. I just didn't find the right stuff until I got to my Harry Potter piano book that someone had given me and found Fawkes the Phoenix, and decided to go do some research to make sure that Fawkes the Phoenix was a courageous and a good character. And indeed, he very much was. And so the Phoenix, the legend of the Phoenix comes way back from ancient Egypt, and the Phoenix is consumed by fire. But because this bird is immortal, the bird rises from the ashes. It was a very powerful symbol. And Fawkes actually saves Harry Potter's life. At some point, Fawkes swallows some sort of a curse that's supposed to explode Dumbledore. And I finished looking at all this. And then, of course, I start looking at all the things that the Fawkes the Phoenix items that are for sale that you can see on the internet. And I find this scarf, and it's not very expensive. And I thought, I don't need to buy a Fawkes the Phoenix scarf to play this at Summit. And then I started thinking about Mary Carter Vale and how much magic she brings to everything. And I thought, Mary would want me to get this scarf. So I purchased one. And then the funny thing is that the universe actually, this is universe spelled with 2 U's, actually had me buy by accident 2 scarves. So I have one for Mary too, and I did. She knows that she's going to be watching this on later, the recorded version. But anyway, here's the scarf.
Good morning. I am so pleased to be one of the people here today to share our thoughts, our perspectives on courage. It's been one of my favorite, I don't want to call it a topic, it's an energy, it's a dynamic for years. And in my work as psychic counselor, life coach, medical intuitive, I've had wonderful examples and opportunities to work with all diversities of people to help them see how it lives in them, encourage it, nourish it, and certainly to learn and keep on learning from them. Today, I also draw some thoughts and perspectives from some of the better known people, all of whom I chose them because I think they not only embody their words, they live them, they embody them and live them. They don't just preach them. People that we well know like Deepak Chopra, Dalai Lama, famous revolutionaries like Washington and the revolutionaries, Lincoln, and very much talk about courage as an energy and a dynamic. So yes, let's look at the word courage. Courage does, one of the first things we think of, I think of is bravery, but it's larger than that. Bravery is around tasks and doing, and that's good. But when we think about courage, it's the essence of it is faith, and as dynamic as a dynamic force. And David Spangler, loving founder of Finhorn and poet, used to say, he used to call it courage. He used to say faith is a dynamic knowing. When we think about faith and we think about courage, it's been with us. It's persistence, endurance, and inner stamina and inner presence. And I would like to celebrate and congratulate all of us here. If you thought you weren't courageous, how have you gotten through the last 2 or 3 years? How do you get through parts of your life? Maybe you don't feel brave, you don't feel, but there's a sustaining force, and it's always present for us to call on. As an extension of this, most of you know I write poetry, I love poetry, and I love to play with words. So let's look at one of the origins of courage. Courage, the age of the heart, is what it means. To live, to celebrate, to engage, to be constantly from, in, about, and through love. And many ways that expands and extends into our lives. One of the most common ways we think about is how when we're being from, in, about, and through the heart, and famous people like Greg Braden, the common philosopher right now, who talks about we are entering the age of the heart. So what does that mean? Most common things I think we first think of is you're loving, you're compassionate, you're kind, you're generous. And this is not just to other people, it's to yourself. For the heart is inclusive, where the mind can sometimes be exclusive. The heart includes all people and all actions, and it just loves, honors, respects, allows, encourages, encouragement, encourages. And we often maybe need to ask ourselves, can we also include ourselves in this? Self-love is not the same as selfish. Selfish is either or. So being self-loving, ask yourself the question, do I allow to greet myself and treat myself as I would other people? Would I, be not caring to other people? How hard we are our worst critics sometimes. If we can change that. And just in that word, when we think about heart, it's in constant as a vessel. It's a constant on the spiritual and on the personal levels, physical. It's a vehicle of circulation, of change. I love that Mary brought together change and courage and how they go together. Just think about it. Every time you breathe in, you take in new life and light Every breath's a kind of invocation to be more full, to be more living, to be responsive, to allow yourself to move, to let that circulation go to all parts of your being, physical, emotional, mental, spiritual, to let them be. And we think when we do that, when we live with that constant fluency of the heart, aspects and dynamics that come in is to be willing rather than willful, to be, excuse me, to be accepting. We don't have to like it. We just accept it. We just accept that it just is. To allow it, to allow space, to allow that movement. It's often said that the amount of resistance equals the amount of pain. And the natural course of the function of the heart is to allow and bring us into deeper union and communion with change. You know, change is movement. And why do we so fear it? You know, Franklin Delano Roosevelt once said, the only thing greatest fear to fear is fear itself. And change is as natural as breathing. Every time you breathe in, again, new life, new light, every time you exhale. So another function in this circulation is letting go. Letting go. The heart's very comfortable with that. It doesn't see it as a loss. It's a clearing the space. So what's trying to find you can find you. It's like I like to say, it's a fertile void. It's a creation of an extended reaching, an opportunity to allow what's trying to find you to find you. Derek Walcott, wonderful poet who was one of the chief leaders of apartheid in South Africa, has a beautiful piece from his poem called Love After Love. He said, the time will come when with elation, you will greet yourself arriving at your own door, in your own mirror, and each will smile at the other's welcome and say, sit here, eat. You will love again the stranger who was yourself. So greet yourself arriving. And lastly, I leave you with the thought, why are we so afraid of diversity, change? Well, it's such a natural state of the heart, and the heart sees it as that. And as some of the new thinkers, particularly Greg Braden, talk about, we are in the age of the heart. We are in the changing of unity of heart and soul and mind. And what is that going to look like? You know, how are we welcoming it? How are we allowing it? And in that process, to think about one of the main functions the heart does is it accepts unity, it accepts it all, it circulates it all. It's the alchemist, it's the chief alchemist. How does it take out of the old what's bright and new and make it into something fuller and more whole? And we think about it, it loves to create harmony, it seeks harmony. And I say to people sometimes, what's your first thought about harmony? And I'm surprised sometimes when I hear back, people say, oh, sameness. Well, no, it's not. What composes harmony? It's the allowing of each of us to hold our own distinct notes in relationship with each other. And what does that create? Constant bounty and wonder and beauty, harmony, not just in music, but within ourselves. So I leave us with this affirmation, just to take a couple of deep breaths, to breathe in this new life and light, and just to affirm, I am from, in, about, and through love. Love is a feeling, yes, and love is source. I am willing to allow all parts of me, physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, to receive this constant flow, and allowing myself through that to deepen the union and communion with source. I am from, in, about, and through love. I am one with source, and so it is, and blessings be. Thank you.
Is Pat next on Zoom? You want to go next? Okay, Carol.
Hello. Oh, it's working. I'm Carol Schnaubelt for those of you that don't know me. Thanks for being here for this lay-lit service where we're sharing our perspectives on courage. When I agreed to talk today about courage, I first thought to myself, uh-oh, what am I going to say? I'm scared all the time. I'm scared of falling. I'm scared of getting stuck somewhere. I'm scared my equipment won't work. And I'm scared of being a burden to my family and friends. But I looked for definitions of courage and I found this quote by Nelson Mandela. Courage is not the absence of fear, but the triumph over it. The brave man is not he that does not feel afraid, but he who conquers that fear. That quote to me says, of course you're afraid. Fear is normal. It's what you do with that fear that's important. So I decided to talk about things that I do to help me cope with fear, which is an ongoing challenge. Right when you think you've conquered something frightening, some other scary thing pops up. Life changes and new obstacles constantly appear in our paths. I also know that all of us are facing something that causes us to feel afraid. Cemeterians are facing the loss of loved ones, serious health issues, mental illness, financial fears, all kinds of scary things. And yet here you are coming to our fellowship, trying to live your UU values, trying to become better people, despite your fear. I'd like to add that to my definition of courage, continuing on even when you're afraid. I've been dealing with the fear of decline for a long time. I realize I've had time to process this change and think about how I want to live. Time is a big healer. So today I hope I can share something that can bolster your journey, like Mandela says, to triumph over that fear a little bit and conquer it, at least for now. I've learned that it helps to share your fear. Sharing takes it from inside here and puts it out there where you can look at it. It can make it more manageable. Summit is a supportive community and a safe space. So hopefully that makes it easier to share your fear. It's hard to ask for help, but I've learned that people like to help. I just can't do things without help, so I've had a lot of practice asking. Helping makes others feel good, and it might make your burden a little easier. If you ask for help, people know what to do. Sometimes people just don't know how to help. I try to take it one day at a time. I try to put my fear of the future in another part of my brain and focus only on today. I like Aesop's fable about the race between the turtle and the hare. Spoiler alert, the slow-moving turtle wins. I repeat the moral of that story to myself all the time. Slow and steady wins the race. It's a reminder that it's okay to go slow. I focus on today, but it also helps me to plan ahead. Because of the Americans with Disabilities Act and all the sacrifices that handicapped people have made to get the law passed, most public places in America are accessible. This is huge for me. I don't have to stay home all the time. But I still call ahead to the place that I'm going to visit and I ask questions about stairs, the restrooms, obstacles I've encountered before. So I think planning ahead helps with many kind of physical and mental challenges. It helps you to know what to expect, and that alleviates fear. Having a plan, but also being flexible can give you a little bit of courage. Help someone. There are always ways you can help. Summit has plenty of volunteer opportunities, or you may just want to help a Summit friend. Helping others will help you feel useful and give some meaning to your life. Practice gratitude. Think about something every day that you are thankful for. You can almost always find something good in the day, even if it's just noticing a beautiful flower or a clear blue sky. Gratitude helps sustain hope, and you need hope to face fear. Courage is all around us. Courage is not just rescuing someone from a burning building or jumping in the water to save someone who's drowning. Courage is everyday people still showing up, still trying to help, still pitching in despite their fears. Look around you at regular people who are courageous heroes right here at Summit. Thank you.
Thank you, Carol. And now we will hear from Pat Summers on Zoom. Pat, have you checked your microphone? Unmute. I can't see. Is she unmuted? She's not. Okay, Pat, if you can see down below, perhaps on the left, lower left, do you see a microphone icon? You want to, if there's a red line through it, you want to click that. Okay, so now I would suggest you check your microphone in your earbuds. There's a microphone. Can I suggest that we move on? While you work on that, Pat, can I suggest we move on to Jenny Saar? Tyler, can you help? Thank you.
Thanks. Well, I was supposed to be last, but I'll adapt. First, I want to say before I forget that I was sitting over there and listening to the music and looking around the room, and I just felt this overwhelming welling up of love for everybody in this room. And so anyway, just wanted to say that. Thanks for being here. Okay. All right. A serendipitous little thing happened to me while I was preparing for this discussion. A friend from LA spent Thursday and Friday night with us. On his first night, we watched The Wizard of Oz. Because I can't think of the word courage without wanting to say it like Bert Lahr's Cowardly Lion. Courage. Courage. Saturday night, we watched The Lion King, Disney's most recent computer animated version of the original hand-drawn Lion King, because our friend had never seen it. And it's fantastic. If you haven't seen it, it's actually better than the first version. Then yesterday, as I was researching definitions of courage to get my brain started on this, one website discussed the distinction of moral courage and used The Lion King as an example of courage and cowardice. I thought that was pretty serendipitous. So we often use lions as a symbol of courage or valor, which is sort of the war version of the word. Yeah, okay. So, and then, I started thinking about that, this sort of the combination of all these lion themes, and then somebody else mentioned lions today. So it's kind of like a common symbol. So I was thinking about it, and I thought, do we think of that lions are brave and courageous? Aren't they just being lions and doing what lions do, following their instincts? And then it occurred to me that perhaps that is what we are doing when we are being courageous. Acts of courage seem to be more spontaneous without thinking of the consequences first. Perhaps we are following the way of our true self, acting out of the power of love. As it says in 1 John chapter 4:18, there is no fear in love. Perfect love casts out fear. Another internet source had what it said was an obsolete definition, which I thought was kind of weird because its definition is mind, purpose, spirit. The quality of mind or spirit that enables a person to face difficulty, danger, pain, etc., without fear. I couldn't figure out why they considered that obsolete, because Wikipedia's definition was the choice and willingness to confront agony, pain, danger, uncertainty, or intimidation. So imagine you are a 13-year-old African boy in northern Mozambique, which has just been invaded by the Islamic State militants who have overrun and are terrorizing your village. The fighters try to recruit you, and when you refuse, they begin to torture you. First, they behead your uncle in front of you. His screams scar you deeper than the razor blade they cut you with. This is not a story you want to read in the middle of the night when you can't sleep, which was when I read it. The Washington Post article goes on to detail the accounts of 3 other female victims. And it kept me awake thinking about what it takes to stand up to that kind of horrific intimidation. Courage, yes, but it must be more than that. It seems to me it takes the deepest certainty of who one truly is, an instinctive awareness of our shared source, which I'm certain is love, and in some way of the other as well, the perpetrator, who at one time had been just like this 13-year-old boy, but was lost to himself. I imagined this kid standing there, blood running down his face, but completely defiant in his stance and certain to his very core of who he was intending to be, no matter what. It's like a FU to the Islamic State, I guess. Standing within this oneness we all share is where courage arises. We may not all think that we have that kind of courage. We tend to be more comfortable denying that we have that kind of power. Robert Frost says, have courage and a little willingness to venture. Standing up to claim one's power is an act of courage. It is an act of love. I'll leave you with one little bit of wisdom about courage from our mother, Jenny Saar. She would say, when you recognize that you're afraid, go into the fear. I found that very helpful throughout my life. And that's all I have to say. Peace be with you.
Thank you, Jenny. We're still working through technical difficulties. We'll try to get Pat here online in just a second, but we may have to move ahead with our next musical selection, Barbara. I'm so sorry, Pat. If you can hear us, we're not able to hear you or talk with you on chat at home. So we're gonna. I've asked you to send your reflections to my email. If you saw that, if you could get that to us quickly, I'll try to read your reflection here if that would help you. Okay. Thank you very much, Pat, for trying. I appreciate that. It must be very frustrating for you at home. We do appreciate your efforts and look forward to another time when we can hear your contributions. And thank you to all Carol Schnaubelt, Jenny Saar, and Margo Mariana for your wonderful words this morning. Our next selection is When I Am Frightened.
10-12.
10-12. Let's rise and stand as we're able and sing. Thanks, Barbara. Now we will have our closing words. Jenny? Oh, no, I'm sorry, it's Margo.
Share with you the lovely poem of Mary Oliver. I think that it embodies and encompasses everything we all said today. Her words are very lovely. Wild geese. You do not have to be good. You do not have to walk on your knees for 100 miles through the desert repenting. You only have to let the soft animal of your body love what it loves. Tell me about despair, yours, and I will tell you mine. Meanwhile, the world goes on. Meanwhile, the sun and the clear pebbles of rain are moving across the landscapes, over the prairies and the deep trees, the mountains and the rivers. Meanwhile, the wild geese, high in the clean blue air, are heading home again. Whoever you are, no matter how lonely, the world offers itself to your imagination, calls you to, like the wild geese, harsh and exciting, over and over, announcing your place in the family of things.
Thank you, Margo. And now we'll rise and sing our closing circle song.